course, we still have. Okay, this is the May 10th, 2023 Toledo Planning Commission. And at this point, I will have a call to order, starting on the left.
Brian Lundgren here.
Jonathan Mixer.
Ann Ellis here.
Ricky Dawson.
Ruth Ann Morris here.
Okay, thank you. Are there any, and we have a visitor yeah, kind of. Katie is here.
He's kind of a visitor.
Yeah, and so at this point, we the April 12th, 2023 minutes are circulated. Are there any corrections or additions? I didn't either. So we
Home is in that direction, will adult thing.
okay. We have
I'll second.
okay, so Ricky and Jonathan have moved to approve the minutes from April 12th. So all those in favor, aye. Okay, they stand approved.
And I just want to note that Laura Warfield and then Terry Nyman are absent.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Okay. So at this time, we're going to go on to a decision item, and they have given us a little, it's just for an extension for the Steve Edward and Kelly Branch with Stephen Swinehart as the authorized agent. So unless anybody has any questions regarding that.
Yeah, I can give a super quick
Okay,
summary.
thank you.
This was approved about a year ago, and it's between first and second there, just south of the grocery store and east. There's a vacant lot up that way. This was to partition the lot into 3 parcels. So 2 of them are fronting Second Street, and then 1 of them was fronting First Street. They were moving forward with still trying to build the duplex on there, but then they're splitting it so that they can build them 2 other single family homes on the lot. So this approved a year ago, and I don't remember any issues coming up for that approval.
So I think we just need unless anybody has any questions, I think we just need a motion and down at the very bottom is I'll go ahead and recommend an extension for partition number MP-1-22 with the deadline be updated to May 18th, 2024.
Okay,
Okay, is that a second?
that's a second.
Thank you.
Well, lucky if this.
We go around again.
So were you reading the what picture?
Right. This one, right
The
there.
agenda. Oh.
Yeah. Oh. Did you?
Well, because I thought it was on the back page. It says based on the testimony received at that.
Oh, yeah, that's the one. Yeah. We made it shorter on the front.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that old motion was for the original motion.
Here on the back page.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah.
one last year.
Okay.
This one can be simpler.
Okay, so those in favor of the extension?
Aye.
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 Okay, so the Frenches have their, and Mr. Swinehart have their extension.
Is that also, that's not also for the lot line adjustment?
And then I guess I will note the lot line adjustment was also approved for an extension, but
Okay,
that was done at the staff level.
okay,
So because the lot line adjustments themselves are a staff level approval, so the extension is also a staff level. So they were slightly adjusting the lot line with the adjacent parcel they owned, and then splitting this parcel into 3. So both were approved, so they can still move forward because they weren't able to get the surveys and new documents done in time. But
Okay.
this gives them another year. If they don't get it in this
Next.
year, they have to come back for another.
for a new application. Okay. Thank you.
And
So is there any other clarification on the extension for Kelly? And so I guess at this time we have a work session going back to the comprehensive land use plan update.
Yeah, and this really should have said too, like also an open house, just verbal summary. I didn't get a chance to write anything up at this point, yet, since that was relatively recent when that open house, was, but thank you those that came out, and we also brought some of the materials back out so that those that weren't able to come to the meeting can provide some comments for that. I think we had relatively good attendance. I mean, this table was full at the beginning, and we provided kind of a brief introduction and then let people kind of walk around the room and provide comments, and we were able to interact. In the Department of Land Conservation and Development, the Oregon Land Use Department, they had their regional rep here too, so he was at the meeting kind of and available as well. So it's good to have him there. But we definitely want to have comments after the meeting. It can be open for a minute where you can provide some comments. But we had the map of the recreation just to get some input on the recreation facilities in town, and then also a map on the zoning, kind of just asking what areas in town potentially should be considered for rezoning. And then there also was an activity around housing in terms of what policies should be the priority. So we're trying to get as much public input as possible. We had the survey that was done in 2022, but this was another opportunity to provide comments. So we have these still up in our office and we also have some comment sheets that I'll pass out that everyone could fill out if they have time. But I think overall, I was hoping maybe for a few more people, but I think having the table full, we had a good amount. It was also kind of the first sunny day in a while, so the timing, unfortunately, there wasn't the greatest, but I do feel like we still had a decent amount of people that came through and provided some comments. And at the meeting, most of the department, actually, I think all the department heads for the city were at the meeting. But I think that was good to connect to make sure that we're hitting, because there are sections of the comp plan that hit on each department in the city. So it's making sure that we have those right, because this is the 20-year planning document. And I will say too, today I was able to stop by the library as well to meet with Deb, the library director, to talk about their programs to make sure that they're incorporated in the plan. And we do have currently, how we wrote it in the recreation chapter and the economic development chapter, we do have some goals and policies around the library, but we were trying to make sure that we incorporated all of the library programs into the plan as well. Because Deb had brought up that the previous plan really didn't mention the library, which was definitely the case. This was kind of making sure that we incorporate the library into the comprehensive plan this time. That's does anyone have questions on the open house portion?
No, I came through and put some, it was funny because I put Deer Park under parks. And then I saw that indeed they'd refurbished. I hadn't gone up there in a long time. So it was funny to see that was when I put Deer, and then it turns out I should drive up there and take a look and see how it looks, the Deer Drive one. And then there's the one off of 18th. I don't know how that park wise. But it seemed to me that a lot of people, from when I was there, it seems like people were mentioning the library and the parks as assets.
Yeah, and there are improvements that will be happening at Arcadia Park. So we were able to get a grant to fund a portion of those, but there will be some improvements to the surface of the tennis courts there. Making sure that the tennis courts are ADA accessible with the paths, and then a bathroom down there as well.
And did they say something about some new equipment also? For
There's new
play equipment?
lighting. I don't, not that grant didn't have any play equipment as
Okay.
part of it, but maybe there is another piece of funding for that.
Yeah, it seems to me I saw new play equipment for something, but maybe it wasn't.
Maybe that was in the budget document.
Yeah.
Is-
I don't remember playing with it. I think it was fence, resurface and.
And the lighting.
The bathroom.
Yeah,
I think they did just redo Memorial Park.
maybe that's
Down the
it.
hill.
Maybe that's
Play
the-
equipment.
that- Yeah, you're right. That's where I saw the new, yeah, that was the new equipment. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. But that's everything I had for the update. We'll incorporate some of the open house results into the outreach section of the introduction. There's a little bit on page 9 that it's still highlighted, but we'll incorporate kind of all of the outreach efforts that occurred. And Katie did a lot in terms of the open house to be at the library promoting the open house. And then there was we had a newsletter. We ended up putting a sign out front too for the meeting as well on the day of. So we did everything we could to promote the meeting, and Arlene has a list of quite a few emails from the original survey too that we've been sharing. So we did our best to get the word out there about the open house. And then now I wanted to move now into the introduction, and some of this will be providing some homework to take a look at this section and provide any comments to staff in terms of what can be updated. So this is the introduction section of the comp plan, and after the introduction, and it gets into each of the chapters that we've been going through. So this is kind of what it's setting the framework for the rest of the sections in the plan. So it goes into a little bit around the history of the city and the introduction to the city. So if there's something that we're missing that should be added, then this is kind of where providing those comments, we can add that. So like a little bit like in the introduction section, it talks about kind of the current population. Toledo is a rural community with a 2022 population of 3,840. The 1999 population was about 3,600, which means the population increased by about 235 people in the last 20 years. The 2000 comprehensive plan projected between 5,000 and 5,600 people would live in Toledo. So that's what the old comprehensive plan projected, but now we kind of see what the current actual growth that occurred. And the PSU estimates for growth, which was in the housing needs analysis too, it projects a pretty slow growth over the next 5 years as well.
Wasn't it even slower than we thought was realistic?
Yeah, and it was slower than what we thought was realistic. Because I think they gave us like 35 units or something in that time period, so it was really low for a projected.
Was it 20 years?
Yeah,
35 people in 20 years.
yeah, I think it was 35 total units needed in that time, so a little more than 35 people, approximately, yeah, double that. But I think everyone, including city council as well, thought that number was low. But nothing in this would prevent from additional growth occurring beyond that, because one subdivision comes in, you could already be really close to meeting that number, or one medium-sized apartment building, you'd be relatively close to already hitting that growth number. But we definitely across, in terms of looking at like building permits, I don't have the table there, but in the housing needs analysis, there's the table of historic building permits. And there really was, it was after 2008, it was pretty slow until about 2017 when it started to pick up. You'd almost see only a growth of 2 or 3 units per year if you accounted for the demo permits that were also occurring, because sometimes it'd be someone was demoing a house to rebuild, so it wasn't really adding an extra unit to the housing stock. But I think over the last few years, we've definitely seen a pickup in the number of units. So hopefully that trend continues in terms of being able to provide housing. But that was definitely I think a theme, overall theme too of the comp plan was around housing.
I have a question about that. So on Arcadia Drive, there was a big chunk of land next to the highway that it was in the urban growth boundary. Is that in this now?
Yeah, the annexation that occurred. Yeah, so that area and that property might still be for sale, but they that all is now within the city limits. So it would be the city that's approving permits. The biggest challenge with that property is the infrastructure to get out to that site, but it is a pretty I think there were 15 acres on each side of the road. I think the west side, you have a little bit more opportunity in terms of just looking at the slopes. But yeah, it's in the city, but it's just a matter of finding a developer and getting that infrastructure out there. And then there are a couple other annexations that did occur. There was the one on Sturdivant Road. There's the other one that was a pretty substantial area. That one was about 6.5 or so acres.
Yeah, I think they logged it.
Yeah.
By the power lines.
Yeah, but we don't have a subdivision application would have to come to the planning commission. We don't have an application at this point for that property moving forward, but that's just north of the elementary school. For context for anyone that was trying to picture where exactly it is, but that one was also annexed and could be developed it's zoned for residential. So
there's potential that there's some possible projects out there that could really increase the stock, housing stock.
yeah. Because otherwise we haven't really had a new subdivision. We had a planned unit development, which is kind of like a subdivision, but they're often smaller lots that are created. And that was off of East Slope, and there were 8 units there. But that was approved in 2006, but we're now finally, over the last few years, they've been building on those. You can't get from East Slope because it's a kind of a steep like driveway that goes up in there, but there are 8 lots up there. And I think I want to say 5 are built and 2 are in the process of being built, and so there's 1 remaining up there, but that was kind of a leftover kind of platted subdivision that needed to be filled in, but it took time. But otherwise, most of the development that we see is either a redevelopment of a lot or someone building on an existing vacant lot that maybe was left in town. We did get recently we did see an ADU. We haven't approved it yet, but we're starting the review of an accessory dwelling unit on a property. So that's kind of showing that the updates that planning commission made a few years ago are starting to see maybe some housing come in from that. And then hopefully we haven't really seen the duplex standard used as much, but we're hoping to see maybe more. Instead of 1 unit on the lot, you can have 2 units, and the ADUs can be someone rents it that just like someone else that wants to live in Toledo, or it's a family member that lives there, but there's a lot of options for accessory dwelling units, and nothing in the city code regulates like who can live there. It's just, it's open to the property owner once it's built.
So there's some criteria for like the open space, right? Because you can only have so much.
That's for the cottage clusters, yeah. So an ADU is more if I have my single family home and I want to build in one unit in the back.
Yeah.
The cottage cluster is where I want to build, it says I think it's
Yeah,
3 to 10 or 3 to 12 units. And then that has to have an open space component. So you're it would be more like a vision, like a 700 square foot house, but there's multiple on a lot and it's kind of all around an open space area, but that does have a square footage requirement for open space.
and doesn't
Go ahead.
the ADU, isn't there also, it's a percentage of the total square footage of the initial residence?
Yeah,
It's 75 or something.
800, there's kind of in either or, so it's 850 feet or 80% of the
80% or a max of, Yeah.
primary dwelling. So if it's 1,000 square foot house, you'd only be allowed to have an 800 square foot ADU. So it's kind of to show that there is a primary
Yeah.
unit on the lot, but you can still build it pretty big at 850 square feet. If say you had a 1,500 square foot house, it's a relatively big accessory unit that can be built.
Well, so I thought there was for the general residential areas that so much space, like so much percentage of the lot could be used for living.
Yeah, there we do have lot coverage standards, so you can't, that could limit it, but Toledo's lot coverage standards pretty high where we haven't run into an issue where that's a limiting factor for the size. But yeah, each lot, I don't know the percentages off my head. I think it's around 60, but you can only cover that much percent of your lot with the structure. And that's pretty common to have that standard. Across all cities kind of have that lot coverage.
Yeah, and
standard.
then you have like the setbacks and everything like that that you have to take in consideration. So-
And and usually with those setbacks, that's the way to meet the lot coverage.
Well, you can use that for the lot.
So that can be considered not.
The 40%.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah, it's just the structure can't. So if you had a house, garage, ADU, then all of that is counted towards what's built out essentially. That another kind of like, especially on like the description, I want to make sure like on page 2 that we capture everything about I mean, it is still pretty high level, but making sure we capture the essence of Toledo. But Toledo expresses a small town feeling to people who live here, with a quaint downtown, steep hillsides, narrow streets, forested neighborhoods, and scenic waterways. And then Toledo is a charming community. How there's a wide variety of housing types and styles. So I don't want to read all of this today, but this is where kind of the homework is, where you can provide comments to staff where, oh, we missed in the types of activities. It says swimming pools, tennis courts, bowling alley. Oh, if we missed something there, to make sure that we incorporate everything. And we did pull out a little bit in terms of Toledo by the numbers, in terms of statistics. So as many of you probably already know, the majority of the housing stock in Toledo is single family attached, and that's kind of historically been the case. And just a note, a lot of the housing stock is older. in town, but this is just pulling a couple excerpts from that housing needs analysis. We don't, and we reference the housing needs analysis for, as an attachment. And then in terms of history, I was able to find a couple photos in the Salem Public Library collection. So it has an old photo of the GP Mill and an old photo of downtown Main Street. So it gets into a little bit of the history of the town. And we do have some sections on Port of Toledo and then Georgia Pacific. And that's kind of where I had a question for the planning commission. Is there another, 'cause we kind of have this longer description of the Port of Toledo and Georgia Pacific, but is there another section that we should have in terms of history that's longer? Something about the Toledo History Museum or something.
I was just saying that we might want to know, it was, I read the article in the paper and it was interesting to note that it was only supposed to be for a year. And yet they kept it, if the article is correct, it's still ongoing, 19 years later, and that they've just moved and it's new and it's so that I was just thinking that they might in the new expanded, Toledo History Museum, pump it up a little bit, maybe.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
we could add, that was one of the options I had in terms of adding.
Which was removed in 1920, 2023, something, yeah.
So, just a question. Sorry,
Yeah. Oh.
as far as the pool is concerned, pool district, they're going to upgrade the pool and put in new pool and all that sort of thing. What's the possibility of putting a sauna in there, public sauna?
We turned the pool over before I left on military leave. I did documents, put it out to the voters, and they voted on a pool district, which is a separate taxing entity from the city. So we've transferred the pool to them. And so there is a board that manages the pool.
Okay.
That is the pool district, that's a separate taxing district. And so I don't really have any idea. The staff doesn't have any input to help with that, Ricky.
Okay.
But the pool district would. And they should have public meetings. I just don't know when they are off the top of my head.
Okay, I can call them and find out.
Yeah.
All right.
Our recreation chapter, the old plan had the library and pool in the same policy, but we did pull those apart. We do still have a policy around the pool, but it's more supporting the pool district since we don't. It's not the city in charge now, but the library now, that's kind of where we separated them, and the library has its own policy, but it's still mentioned in the plan. But yeah, in terms of specifics of how that remodel should happen, the pool board is going to be your best bet.
Okay, I'll give them a call.
Can I make a comment?
Yeah.
I'm just curious where the indoor tennis courts are.
Indoor tennis? Oh,
Yeah, that's what it says. Indoor swimming pool, tennis courts, bowling alley.
It's just indoor swimming pool. Is that what
Yeah,
it
that's
is?
just the phrasing. It should, the only indoor one is the swimming pool, and then
So is it?
it's just how the sentence is structured, so we can update that.
Yeah,
And then the other thing,
thought found something new.
so the other thing, people don't know about it, but we have a Frisbee golf course.
Yeah, that was actually mentioned to me today. I have a map of it now, but I stopped by the library and I didn't walk the whole course. They walked me to the back behind the library to show me.
It's been there for a while and like nobody ever.
What was that?
Oh, I was-
Frisbee golf.
Oh, of course.
Oh, yeah, up on the hill there.
It's really steep.
Yeah, I've been up there.
Yeah, there's a trail that goes up.
I did the contract for that one.
I could never make it to the top of the hill.
Yeah, that'd be.
I did it once,
That's
a
it.
long time ago.
Alma Baxter was a city councilor and was interested in Frisbee golf among other people. And there it is.
There it is.
It's a mess.
Yeah, but like nobody knows about it, so if we kind of advertise maybe a little bit.
Is that the one
It
like they
is.
have out at the community college where the little things and you?
There was like a little basket.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
It would be a challenge.
A whole event going up, it goes to all the.
Oh, no, I'm just saying on going uphill through trees, it would be a challenge.
Ties your more, you'd be part of that.
It is
All that
on,
greenery
so
and
there's
stuff.
actual apps that show you where disc golf courses are, and it is on there.
Yeah, I like frisbees.
Just kind of a little hit. By the library here.
Yeah.
I just figured I'd mention that.
No, that's a good point.
Well, for the very active, we have frisbee golf. Those with strong calves.
Getting up the hill.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can check out
Check
the
it out.
disc at the library.
Can you?
Yeah, she
Oh.
showed me them today.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was like, that's a good idea, but it sounds like they're doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have I learned that today too. You can check out basketballs, frisbees, different equipment to use at the park.
Cool.
So that's kind of, the first part is that introduction to history, and then it gets into like the purpose of the plan. This is, once you get to page 6, that's the more technical stuff of what a comprehensive plan is. Some of this is similar to the previous plan and some is added, but it really, I think big picture, I think of it, it's like the umbrella or the blueprint for the city for the next 20 years. So as the land use action happens, the comprehensive plan is pointed to. There's a legislative housing update, like adding the duplexes. We pointed to sections of the comprehensive plan about supporting additional types of housing. So it is an important document in terms of those future land use actions and also just future planning, like say around with fire, making sure that there's kind of broader policy around fire protection as well. So if the fire department went out for a grant, they could point to the comprehensive plan in terms of policy, because that's an adopted document by the city council. So it can support different grants as well. So it's important that we do capture all the departments and so it's not just left on a shelf, but it's utilized moving forward. And then kind of the why it's needed and kind of looking back and Ruth Ann had a good point before the meeting started around kind of the progress in the last 20 years. So here in the why needed to talk about kind of where we have come from, where we are now, and where we want to go in the next 20 years. So maybe we have a little bit in terms of the history, but maybe I think we could I can think about how to add kind of where we came from too, in terms of the progress that's occurred. But if anybody has input on that for staff to now or later, that'd be helpful, but kind of making sure that we do maybe have a list or something that recognizes the things that have occurred in the last 20 years to include those in the plan. I'm just gonna put a note to myself. And then just a little bit around the Oregon, so on page 8 talks about the land use goals. So this is actually I guess page 7 and page 8, but this is how we've structured our comp plan, is following the Oregon land use planning goals. So, and that's why it was important to have Department of Land Conservation and Development rep at the meeting. So we're starting to work with them to share some of the chapters to see if they have any comments early on. So that we can make those updates as needed. And then, as I mentioned a little bit on the outreach, kind of how it's written, and if you get to page 10, kind of the adoption process. And one thing that I think that's important to highlight is the implementation kind of program. So yeah, you have that comp plan, but then the implementing codes, like I was mentioning, the development code, so a master plan. So sometimes cities will have like a master plan around a certain part of town. So it might be a downtown plan as an example. So that comprehensive plan is kind of the overarching document over that downtown plan, or capital improvement plans, or all the public works plans that have to be done kind of are underneath the comp plan. And even if you get further down, city department planning every year, the budgeting work kind of should funnel some of the comprehensive plan goals should funnel down into the budgeting process, in terms of if something was a priority in the comp plan, it should be maybe looked at as a budgeting later on or other strategic plans. And then the organization kind of talks about kind of goal, what a goal is and what a policy statement is. So a goal is a broader statement. And then the policy statement gets a little bit more into the details, kind of guiding a specific course of action. But then underneath that even further is where you get into the development code, where that'll talk about you need to be 15 feet from the front yard setback, and that the development code gets into the even more detail. And then also here I highlighted the vision. So this was something I copied the mission that we have on the website for the city council, but something that we do need to establish is a broad vision statement, really only 1 or 2 sentences of vision for Toledo. So maybe that's something to think about. So I copied the mission statement just to get ideas churning, but the mission of the city of Toledo government is to provide efficient and necessary public service that protect and enhance quality of life in Toledo now and in the future, as determined by our citizens, the law and available economic resources. So we can maybe work off of that, but creating a vision.
So you want a statement that is singular from this statement, you know, its own wording.
Yeah, and it again, it's pretty, it often is pretty broad in terms of the vision statement, but kind of a high level, kind of what we want all of our goals and policies as a city to lead to in terms of the vision. So like it could be around high quality of life or something like that.
Peace on earth.
Big picture.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
But I think there was
Justin.
I have a question.
yeah.
The police department, we haven't said anything about the police.
Yeah,
department.
that's a good point. And they are included in the public facilities chapter.
But we need to put them in there. I think that's important right now.
Yeah, I can take a look to see how many policies we have
Well,
around.
under infrastructure, I think.
Well,
Yeah,
I think you could also put them in under quality of life, having, you know, they could be put in a couple places.
Yeah. They
Public
should be included.
Yeah,
Public safety is the fire department and the police.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah,
I thought they were in there, yeah.
they are in the public facilities chapter.
But as relating to the quality of life, that might be.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
No,
Yeah,
alluding to that.
I can take a look to see and maybe we can add a little.
Well, I can remember, what was it, Judy one time saying that in Yachats, they didn't have a 911 response. I mean, so something along that line, they were so out there. So, yeah.
Yeah,
It
many
makes a big, yeah.
smaller communities, don't have their own police departments, they rely on the.
On the sheriff, yeah, the state, right? Yeah.
Wild West.
Good.
So, yeah, Toledo, is, yeah, fortunate to have its own
Mhm.
police department that's available where, yeah, just to the north. I think Siletz relies on the county.
That's
response.
Yeah.
If there's some, I think, they might have, I know the fire department does, but I think the police department has a.
They had some sort of agreement.
Yeah, agreement.
But I don't know if that's.
They have a
still going
law
on.
enforcement district that's permanent taxing district,
Okay, so that's still, yeah.
that the voters voted in,
When do they move up to the new building, by the way?
the police department.
Yeah.
I don't know
Someday.
when the building will be.
Somewhere in the
completed.
foreseeable future.
Yeah, plan is somewhere in the.
They got plenty of room in there.
So we're going to include the police department,
Yeah,
somewhere besides just, under the, facilities, is that what you said?
The public safety.
Public safety, yeah.
yeah, I don't think it'll show up, it won't directly show up in these aspirations. We don't call out specific departments there, but I think, yeah, in the public facilities or another section, we can call out the public safety and the police department. Or it might already be in there and I'm just not thinking of
Yeah,
an exact policy that's there.
public safety systems, which include, our local safety, police department.
The public safety system too.
Mhm.
Keeping the
Yeah, all of
streets-
it, yeah,
Streets open,
yeah,
there's flooding or something.
yeah, keep
Same
those,
thing.
keep those sewers from flowing out, yeah, that's
Yeah.
safety right there. Yeah.
But then the aspirations here, these are kind of the themes that are. We tried to weave these throughout the comprehensive plan. So business community, housing, quality of life, infrastructure. The locational advantage, art district, and then balance of business support and historic system maintenance. Do those feel right for the aspirations? So these are, so we aspire to have a thriving business community catering to the needs and desires of our residents and attracting visitors. Toledo supports small businesses, home-based businesses, and creative entrepreneurs. Furthermore, Toledo supports continued innovation.
So I don't know if that would be, so. In the history section here, I was thinking, I was gonna mention it at the end here, but I guess I'll just do it now because I interrupted you already, so.
What are you going back to?
Well, the history section, so it has Georgia Pacific history.
Oh.
Well, I was gonna say the Juno project
Toledo.
is history in the making, basically,
Mhm.
because they're kind of. I don't know, it's kind of a. What's the word? You know, they process.
Innovative that we haven't seen before.
Yeah,
Revolutionary.
revolutionary, yeah.
Yeah.
Innovation, so that could be like future in the making, basically.
We called it out a little bit on page 2. It talked about Toledo retains an industrial base with the largest industrial employer in Lincoln County, GP. Toledo is poised to be on the leading edge of environmental improvements with Georgia Pacific's addition of the Juno technology. So it was more in had it in the introduction versus the history at this point. But yeah, I think that is a big important project.
Yeah, even if it's just like, it doesn't have to say the Juno thing, but you know, maybe like the recycle industry leader type, you know, something like that. I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I guess.
if you put that in where you're talking about, our quality, or interested in our quality of our environment and everything, which includes the innovative,
Yeah.
Recycling.
yeah, Juno
Yeah.
thing,
'Cause
yeah.
a lot of this history is. Yeah, 50+ years, where we could do some more, which happened in like the 80s, 90s, 2000s, yeah. No, I agree, we can add to that section.
You're going to,
Spruce
where
and
would you
Juno.
include, where would you include something like future plans? For
The future.
things like environmental
So like,
issues.
Well, we have to balance, we aspire to balance business needs of the estuary, protecting and maintaining its ecosystem.
but we do have a chapter
That's
around,
last. And then we could, that would, things for the future, but it could have fit in there.
there is a goal 6 is air, water and land resources
Okay.
quality. So. Did you hear that? Commissioner Dyson, the goal 6 is around air, water quality.
Yeah.
And land resources, so that talks a little bit about. Air and water, quality standards in terms of environmental. So that's kind of. I'd say that's the primary section that's talked about.
I was thinking of that, system they've been talking about for wastewater treatment. New system that Rod's been excited about.
Yeah,
Is it Siri or? Is it
It-
called? No,
Is that,
but that's called my.
I know, just something for the future.
Yeah, because it's history, maybe we shouldn't
yeah, I don't know.
mention that because it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, I don't think
Right.
that should go.
The water treatment, not the Juno, but the,
The Cirrus.
The tourist thing.
okay.
Because it hasn't happened yet. I don't know that it.
Yeah,
Well,
and
definitely, I wouldn't include it in the history would be my recommendation.
No, I was sorry, I got mixed up there.
No,
That could be part of the vision.
But don't we?
It'd be part of the vision,
Yeah.
Part of
Yeah.
the vision
future vision.
is something in the future. If we're just looking in the past, then we might as well stop.
Yeah. Agreed.
yeah, that I think. Usually you don't want to, in the comp plan, we don't want to call out like a specific system, but you could say the city will pursue innovative technologies or something like that.
Yeah, like that.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, because a lot of, in the water wastewater world, those types of systems. They still have to get Department of Environmental Quality approval, so there's still like, and that process, they have to get that approval, so I don't think I think it's
Painful process.
to be, you want to be broader in the comp plan in terms of saying. Pursuing, innovative technologies.
Yeah,
So
something
that,
like that would be great.
and that you're not tied to it if it doesn't work
No.
out, but you're.
No, but You gotta, I'm just thinking that we sort of, as far as I can see, we're not looking to the future as much as we could be in the plan. I know that we've got to keep it general. I don't know what's gonna happen in the future, but at least some aspirations, where we're talking about aspirations. And I think we could do a little bit, a little broader statement for there. Oh, that's the aspirations for the plan, though, not the actual anything happening.
Yeah, I'll look at the public works chapter to see what we have. In there around wastewater and water. I thought there was a little bit around innovative technologies, but I'd have to look at the chapter to make sure we have something
Okay.
in there. But I think too, in terms of your comment of looking towards the future. In this introduction, we can do a better job. Talking about not just the history, but the future. But it almost, putting that future aspect and then also incorporating kind of highlights of what's happened in the last 20 years too. I
Yeah.
think are big
Yeah.
things to add.
History is interesting, but it doesn't help us for the future.
That's right. No, you learned from it.
You also have to leave it kind of open to the future, because if
That's what
they're not
we-
updating this for like
No, you're
another
not supposed to.
10 to
No,
20
it's not
years.
done.
technology is gonna be old by then that we have now.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's why we don't want to call out that specific technology. If we called out flip phones in the previous comp plan, they might be quickly out of date. But
Yeah,
that's a good point. So yeah, it's a balance of keeping it general enough, but you want to still have something to aspire to.
Well, could we just add a section to the aspiration?
Like another aspiration or
Like a technical.
Keeping up with the innovations that improve the quality of life for people and the environment.
yeah, we can, I think we can.
Yeah.
we don't want something specific like a spaceport or something.
But I think if you keep mentioning the environment, you know, then hopefully that'll, because there's lots of new stuff out there.
Yeah, and like technology can be bad for the environment, you know, like having to mine the stuff for the batteries and everything.
Yeah, it's a balance. Always. No free lunch.
There is an action and a consequence.
Yeah. Action and a reaction. Oh, dear.
And both have consequences.
But that, so everyone's kind of, I took notes on kind of what to incorporate, but kind of everyone's homework is to, if you have any additional comments, to send those to Arlene or I. On the, and then we can kind of start to get this section pretty close to a point where it's ready for adoption, with some of those additions and changes. And then after this, continue where staff is starting to circulate the chapters to the Department of Land Conservation and Development. So we'll kind of keep you updated on if there's major comments or other changes that need to occur. But those chapters are still available on the website. So if you have a chapter you want to revisit and take a look at, if you have a comment on there, we can still make those changes.
So do we send anything like that to you or how's that work?
You can send comments to probably just Arlene's email, and then she can kind of
Email, yeah.
to me. Yeah. I mean, if you have handwritten comments, you can drop them off if they're, as long as they're legible, but
Probably email's better.
Yeah, I was working on some for the wildfire stuff, but then I put it aside and I came back to it and I looked at it and I looked at what you already had and I was like, it's already basically saying that, so. Like, I gave it. I think it's already good.
yeah, if anything comes up, now's kind of the time as you're re-looking, because I know everyone kind of, I think on the planning commission has maybe a focus area that they take a special interest in, so if that, you want to take a look, like for you, I think the natural hazards makes a lot of sense. So yeah, if anyone looks, planning commission members look back at a chapter, like if it's housing or something else that's or economic development that's really of interest, make sure we've incorporated everything. But what we did as we had the meeting, say on economic development, and there were comments, we made those changes, and then that updated copy is on the website, tracking where those changes occurred from your input. That's really everything I have at this point for the comp plan.
Thank you. You guys do so much work.
Yeah.
And we know it's not AI doing it. So, okay, are there any, let me see, discussion items?
Yeah,
Okay, planning commission quasi judicial hearings reminder.
yeah, I put this isn't, we're not gonna go through a full presentation or anything today, but I think some of the planning commission members may remember, like, we've had some trainings. DLCD staff has come in and provided some, and we've also talked about just quasi judicial hearings, which that's like a conditional use. So the microgreens hearings that have occurred, that's what's considered a quasi judicial hearing. Versus a legislative hearing, that's where you made those housing code updates, and when planning commission makes the recommendation to city council. But for quasi judicial hearings, planning commission makes the decision, and if it's not appealed, that's the final decision. So what's those, it's really important for those, they're called quasi judicial or type 3 when they come to planning commission, but it's really important with those that the decision is made based on the criteria that exists in the code. So this code's been adopted through the legislative process. And we have to make sure that whenever a decision is being made, that criteria is looked at. So it can't be a matter of opinion, like I don't like this, or really general comments. It has to be,
I don't like apartment complex.
yeah,
I don't like a duplex.
yeah, or I don't like this business, or yeah, it has to be tied back to the criteria. And it's important that when we go through the quasi judicial hearings that those comments, I think from the public side, often get comments that aren't tied to the criteria because they're less familiar with the process. But as planning commission members, it's important to focus the discussion around the criteria. And we'll do a better job as staff, making sure that we read out all of those criteria during the staff report, so that there's a reminder there, and all the findings typically in a staff report they're trying to tie back the criteria. And that's kind of the tie back to the criteria, and then tie back to the comprehensive.
And then once you close the hearing, all your discussion is about the criteria
Right.
and how the evidence meets or doesn't meet the criteria.
I-
So when it is appealed, and I've been involved in the appeals to city council, county commissioners, from planning commissions to the Land Use Board of Appeals, to the Oregon Court of Appeals, there's a record showing that you considered each of those criteria.
I think it would be helpful, because I know I've been doing this for a while and I still get, it's hard to keep.
Yes.
If the people, we don't have many people here, but every once in a while there are. If they have the green sheet to see what the what the procedure is, and maybe it would help the other commissioners too. Because we get involved in it, and I'll okay, well, where are we at? Where are we? Because I do get worried about making sure that all of the checks, and Jonathan's helped on that too, everything's covered, and that we are sticking with the criteria and sticking with the ORS, because that's, in a way, that's kind of the beauty of it. We have this perimeter, that we have to go within, and that's it. So, but it's hard to, so maybe the next time we have a public hearing, each of us could have the green sheet. And everyone can.
It's a decent
follow-
idea.
follow
They just have to
along.
let you run the meeting. They just have to let you run the meeting as the chair.
Yeah, but that way.
But then they could make.
Yeah,
suggestions.
yeah. And I think also, I think it helps the people, if there is a lot of people out there, they have no idea what to, I have to come up here and give you my name and address. Why do I have that,
Yeah, and we are able to, if there are a lot of people, we are able to limit the time.
Right,
For-
3 minutes or 5 minutes.
Yeah, so that's a way to kind of
Yeah,
limit, because I think you're going to have people that go away from the criteria, and that's pretty common, but if there are a lot of comments
Yeah.
limiting the timeline, and it's not saying one person gets more time than the other, everyone's limited to the same amount of time. The applicant typically does more time because they're the ones presenting, but in terms of if you're a proponent or an opponent, or neutral, you get the set 3 or 5 minutes if there are a lot of comments. And we try to kind of go through the order. So starting, the staff presents their report, and then the applicant presents any additional information. And then kind of going to the proponent, opponent, neutral, and then the rebuttal from the applicant, that's the last, so that's the end. So once the applicant rebuttals to everything if there's an opponent or a proponent, they don't get to come back in after that. That's kind of the last piece, and that's where we there can be question after that.
the rails sometimes.
Yeah. At that point, after that rebuttal from the applicant.
Yep.
The commission can ask questions directed to the applicant. There's kind of that point, but then after that hearing, once that hearing closes, kind of the only discussion should be between planning commission members, and then questions, staff can still chime in. But that's where kind of that hearing closes, and if anyone is speak from the audience, that's where the gavel comes in, and kind of and we can try and help, but the gavel kind of helps quiet things. But once it's closed, then it really the focus is up there in terms of the discussion, kind of taking into account what was said, if it's directed at the criteria, and then moving to a decision.
But even the discussion amongst ourselves at that point is still supposed to be about the criteria, not just what we think about it. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can discuss it all we want, but we have to stick to the discussion of what the definitions and the criteria and all that stuff is. Yeah,
And I think it's okay to remind people when they come up to testify, we have to make our decision based on that criteria. So
Right.
it
yeah,
benefits you to.
yeah, so, yeah, I think I had to say that too. There's nothing we can do about, that we're limited
Yeah,
as to
we
what we
say
can
that.
do.
Maybe we should have the definition of criteria.
Yeah, I was
Oh, I like that.
trying to figure out what do you mean by criteria?
Yeah,
So
so they're
I mean, we,
this.
what does it mean?
Yeah, they're the standards in the code, so the microgreens business that you approved last month, that was a conditional use application, and there's the set kind of bullets for the criteria, and I can actually pull those up. So criteria or standards is another kind of way to think about it, but those are the set parameters that were adopted.
Either or and.
Yeah, and so one of them was the site under consideration is suitable for the proposed use considering. So there's kind of 3, the size, design, and operating characteristics of the use. So that's the first one, the adequacy of transportation, and then natural and physical features of the site. So that's what the decision has to be made on. And then I guess there's one more, the proposed use is compatible with existing and projected uses. So that's what the decision has to be made on for conditional use applications. Other applications, if there's a variance, they'll all have their own criteria or standards that have to be met. And what we ask, it doesn't always happen this way, but we ask the applicant to address when they do their written submittal, to kind of go through each of the criteria and how they meet them. we oftentimes will just get one long paragraph, but we try to kind of. We can't write it for an applicant, but we try to coach them to kind of structure it where they're going through each of the criteria. So that way we're not sorting, well, this part of this paragraph applies to this. Yeah, but doesn't always happen that way, but we try to kind of have the applicant also address their written proposal to the criteria.
On that, would it be feasible to have like a worksheet where there's, you know, where you just kind of fill in the blank for the criteria type thing, you know, what they need to, the person can see, or the public can see, okay, I want to do that, I want to do a conditional use permit for a building in this zone, what do I need? You know, so like actually have a worksheet so that they can look and see like, yeah, I know this is gonna work out, you know, instead of wasting a bunch of time. You know, if they're doing something that they're not, that's
You
not.
like,
allowed.
like the minimal square footage and what the minimal setback and.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds reasonable.
Yeah, and then they kind of have.
Without, yeah,
Develop the criteria.
Well,
but it's in the code.
staff report.
Yeah, it's in, yeah.
That's usually, we try to, it's not, I guess, not a worksheet necessarily, but we try to structure the staff report where. You'll often have the section of how it meets the comp plan, and then a little bit of staff findings, and then the. Criteria, and then the findings there. But we could, we could split it up. Yeah.
Page 9.
Yeah, that's a good point on the,
Are you talking about when people come in to ask for the application to have a worksheet ahead of
It
time?
actually says evaluation
Yeah.
criteria.
When someone wants to say something, why don't?
But that would be.
Where is it, page 9?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the idea.
Yeah, even if, I mean,
Yeah,
I don't know,
I want to
I've
do
I've
something.
never applied, so I don't know. if
Here's
there's
the
a
criteria.
Yeah, you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, I don't know like what I would receive, to help me along with that, so I'm just kind of.
yeah, from the.
Yeah.
When we have someone come in and they wanna like apply for the conditional use, so that when Arlene will put together a packet. So it has the application form, and then we actually will print out the section of criteria. Either email it to them or print it out, if they're in the office, and send it to them so they know. To address, and if it's like a longer section, we try to actually physically highlight. The areas that they apply to their proposal, so we try to be as helpful as possible. It's not, I wouldn't call it a worksheet, but we do kind of provide. This is what you should be addressing when you come in, and then from the other side, once the staff report's written. We do kind of, as was mentioned just a second ago, like we do say evaluation criteria. In the staff report, and that's kind of where we go kind of down each of those criteria and take a look at actually this is going back to the partition that you approved the extension for. There's some pages in there, but even like going back to like page 6 and 7, it talks about some criteria, and we actually try to break it down to like each little paragraph is addressing the specific section. So we do our best to kind of reference the section, but I think we can take a look at how we structure those staff reports to better kind of separate. So if we're talking about transportation, that's where we talk about specifically the road or the site overall.
But I still think that's a good idea to give them at least a list and an outline.
An outline.
Do this, talk about this particular section in one place and the next section in another place, so they don't end up sending you a novel.
Yeah, and that's what we do, kind of send them that criterion. Yeah, and highlight it and ask them.
To address each criteria separately.
Yeah.
Kind of like the staff report does on page 7.
there's the staff app. And now it's after you lay out the criteria in the staff report, there's a staff analysis.
E1, E2, E3, E4, all, part of TMC 1604-90 that are basically a list.
We can see that in the, where you guys put a separate report together, which seemed very meticulous.
Well, they might, depending on what they were applying for, you might need a different worksheet, right?
That's the.
Because you're gonna need a different worksheet for a conditional use, for a lot line adjustment, for, what's the other one?
Partition.
Yeah, then there's the lot line so
Yeah.
there's it seems like most of them are conditional uses, and then there's lot line adjustments. It would be interesting to go back and see which, that might be a fun thing to do on a rainy day. See how many of the, over a 5-year period, how many of the public hearings were for conditional use or lot line adjustments or a variance for something. But I think they might need a different worksheet depending on what.
Well, that's why I said feasible.
Yeah.
That was just something,
At least they don't just hand them the ORS and say, here,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Application.
go for it.
Require, technically, every applicant is supposed to come in for what we call a pre-application meeting. So the first step is if they're kind of interested, Arlene will kind of put the packet together with the criteria, with the application form, and then say that the next step is to schedule a meeting with staff to kind of talk about your proposal. And that's where we can kind of walk through each of the criteria for them. It's the balance of, we can't write it for someone, but we can walk them through kind of the criteria and the process. But we do try to have those pre-applications to help.
We want to be seen as a friendly community
Yeah,
and really helping people.
yeah, and I definitely agree.
Yeah.
And
We want to say that in the plan though, don't we? Or did
I think we do.
well, in the comp plan, I think we talk about that a little bit, but in terms of process for the conditional uses, we try to be, I think as a community, we're pretty hands-on setting up those pre-app meetings and trying to be helpful and like Arlene's kind of your first point of contact, but then if they want to pursue it, because we get a lot of them where it's just someone throws an idea at you and we don't know how kind of serious they are to move forward. So Arlene will kind of have that initial phone call maybe and talk to them. And then if they want to move forward, it's kind of that pre-app step where they do have some responsibility to come in with at least like a site plan or some actual kind of thing, written down ideas to look at. But we do set up those pre-app meetings to be hands-on and helpful. And if needed, those pre-app meetings will also include other departments if we think fire needs to be involved or public works or police. We do we'll expand those meetings to other departments to be kind of give face to all the city staff. But I think we are pretty helpful and hands-on and friendly for that.
we want to say we are?
Yeah,
I think people are just intimidated a little bit.
yeah.
I think we're small enough to be able to do that.
Yeah.
You get some of these big city things. They want you to cut your head off and put it on your arm.
Yeah, and part of it too is we've tried to actually make some more things staff level approval versus having to come, because in terms of process, I think there will always be things that are conditional uses that will come to planning commission, but some things maybe should be staff level approvals versus coming to planning commission members. So that's something like that we might bring up later on as we go through update in the next couple of years, but like partition applications are splitting one lot into a maximum of 3 lots. So a lot of cities have those as staff can approve those. Whereas subdivision applications are more lots, and those would always come to planning commission. So
What about setbacks? So it seems like some setback requests could possibly
variances or,
vary, yeah.
yeah, we have different types of
Class A
variances.
and whatever, yeah.
Yeah, and the class A are supposed to be less impact to neighbors, so staff can approve those, but ones where it's a more significant setbacks,
Those are the ones.
those come to
okay,
planning commissions. But that, we're trying to alleviate the timing of a planning commission meeting is that we have to send out the notice to neighbors. It come to planning commission, get that approval, so that can take over a month or longer typically to get through that process. So we try to make it simpler for kind of property owners to be able to have some staff level approvals too, as part of the process. Typically, those are kind of like a staff level approval for like a building permit. We're checking the planning commission, city council's adopted setbacks. So we just check meeting the setbacks, you're meeting the height requirement, you're meeting all the requirements. You're good to go get your building permit and move forward. So like it's the planning commission has already created these pre-adopted standards. So they're still being met, but it's in terms of timing, can get that approval in a week or 2 versus coming all the way to planning commissions.
So you guys are filter stuff.
Yeah,
There's stuff that you can just approve and stuff that this isn't gonna work at all. And then this might work, but we have to have the hearing so the public can.
and that's how the code is structured. Yeah.
Yeah, and some of that's like you come in and you want a variance from the setback standard. Well, you're coming here and you wanna do the setback and build your building. Maybe you're just going right to the building official. So some of that's, it's criteria based on what they want to do or can do, frankly. Maybe the lot's configured funky and half
Hardship.
Yeah. Yeah, and they have to get a variance to
Yeah.
put in the garage and the house. But
Yeah, and it can't, yeah, that's a good point. There has to be a hard, the criteria standards are typically related to a hardship. It can't be, well, I want to build closer because this is where I want to put my house. Yeah, it has to be related to
Your reason.
the hardship and the criteria. So oftentimes if we get someone in and they'll come in and be like, they'll have a site plan and then maybe it's encroaching on the setback. So we'll talk to them and then they can adjust their site plan so they're meeting the setback standard before having to go through additional process. So we try and help them, but that's a good point around the hardship because there has to be a hardship to it.
It's like if 50% of the lot was a 30% slope
Yeah.
and they have a little section and they gotta like squeeze up against the line to like get. So.
Yeah, a lot of the variance criteria actually are for setbacks are related to topography or natural features on the lot. So that are kind of forcing your hand on where you will have to put the house.
Makes sense.
This isn't a full training. I think we can do another training and also like. The League of Oregon Cities often has like 1-day trainings that we try to share with
Have
planning.
something going on Friday, some sort of legislative thing at 1:30, and I couldn't find out if that was something important or not.
They've been doing that every Friday during the legislative session. They kind of give an
Yeah.
update. I think on LSC's website, there's a link where you. can click.
I wasn't sure which one it was, so, yeah, what legislative thing they. were
well, it's
discussing
just,
at
it's
this
just whatever bills are going through.
point. Okay,
you know, I think.
That apply mainly to.
Voted on, hey, this is what we'd like to see you
Yeah.
advocate for, and so I think they're giving updates on bills that impact cities.
Okay.
Finances and different things.
Yeah, that one's not a planning commission training.
No, but.
No, but
You're welcome.
it's just all the stuff that's coming through now.
And actually, I think I went and they have the real replan.
Yeah,
I think you click on it and I think I watched an hour of one or close to.
yeah, that's what I was at 1:30. How long are they gonna, yeah. If
But
it's
I
sunny
think-
outside.
I think they're just gonna do that through the legislative
Okay.
session, so.
Mhm. Or you can always
That'll be concluded by July, or then you can probably keep.
get the highlights. Yeah. Okay. Updates and reports? Are we moving on to that?
I don't think I have anything else. Eileen, do you have anything?
No.
Judy, do you have anything?
I don't have anything this evening. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to us.
Yeah, it's interesting conversation.
Okay, so any other staff comments from the three of you or Judy? No? Are there any commissioner comments? Okay, well, I think we had some interesting discussion today. We went over some stuff, so, and I appreciate the update on procedure and all that sort of thing. So everybody have a good one. Yeah, and go see the new history. Like,
As a quick note too, there probably will be, we don't have an application, but we're expecting an application for quasi judicial, so have it in your mind for the next month. And if you have more questions on process, feel free to stop by on a Wednesday and Arlene and I can talk to you about those questions. And then if you didn't fill it out and have time, stick around and kind of
take a look at that. Yeah, everybody circle that. Yeah, it will be interesting. Okay, so we are adjourned. Thank you all.
Thanks, Mike. No, you.